who's as adamant about his or her position as I am about mine, whom you think is sharp. Seriously, we know that. And another thing, we heard him say that... Hey, Eldorados, I'm Larry Elder. Welcome to another edition of And Another Thing. This is edition number 33. I want to welcome all Eldorados to go to my website, larryelder.com. Sign up, become an Eldorado. You get a free copy of Michael and Me, my award-winning feature-length documentary about the Second Amendment, where we ambush the esteemed director, Michael Moore, and I asked him 3 times, how many times do Americans use guns to defend themselves? And 3 times, Michael Moore responded, well, why don't you get the DVD? You'll find out how he responded. Now to today's topic. Right now, as we speak, the prosecution is giving their closing argument in the George Zimmerman case. This is the first crack the prosecution gets. As you know, in a criminal trial, the prosecution goes first, then the defense goes, and then the prosecution has a rebuttal response to what the defense says. So oftentimes, a clever prosecutor will reserve certain things, have the defense give their closing, and then the prosecution will remind the jury of certain things that they cleverly left out the first time around. Anyway, they gave their closing argument today, and I watched it. And they made chicken something out of chicken something else. I can't remember now how the expression goes. But let me just back up, okay? Can we just drop the analysis for a moment, forget all the experts, let's just talk about this on a very commonsensical basis. I used to work for the LA County DA's office. I was just a summer clerk. I spent my second summer there, and the title was called Certified Law Clerk. It may sound like I was filing stuff, but it wasn't. You go through the whole criminal justice system, from the very beginning of a crime to the very end of a crime, to the prosecution. You go to the coroner's office. You go to the crime lab. You really understand, not from television, but from hands-on and eyeball close-up experience, how the thing works. And I often saw deputy DAs sit there with detectives who are bringing cases, like, say, this case. And they would sit there in the room, and I'm sitting there watching this thing, and it was like a tennis match, and it was fascinating. And the prosecutors were all like this with their arms folded, and the detectives were all leaning forward trying to convince the prosecutors that they had a prosecutable case. But the prosecutors were all skeptical. They're almost like a cynical detective, if you know, that you see on television. And I contacted a friend of mine who's been with the LA DA's office 30 years, now comfortably retired, and I said to him, tell me about this case. He said, Larry, we wouldn't have filed it. I don't know a DA who would have filed it. It's a reasonable doubt case. You can't file a case ethically unless you feel that you have a chance of winning it. This is not a winnable case. It's a reasonable doubt case. But for the politicians, but for the rabble-rousers, but for the mantra of the media, racism against black kids remains a major problem in America, we wouldn't even be talking about this. Now for your questions. Thank you, sir. Cecilia, you're breaking my heart. I'm sure you're sick of that, aren't you? From Escondido, California. Larry, do you think that immigration reform would be a big thing for Democrats if there were a clause written into it that said any illegal alien who is granted amnesty cannot vote, and if they're caught voting, they should be deported after a brief administrative hearing? You know what? They ought to do that. They ought to propose that, put up or shut up, because frankly, if that were the clause, I would be a little more comfortable with the whole thing. I'm one of the secure borders first guys, and make sure the people who are here legally who overstay their visas are tracked down guy first before we even talk about what to do with the status of people who are here illegally. But I bet you anything that if, because this is kind of a twist on something I've been saying, Cecilia, I've always said that if it were the case that the newly minted citizens would vote 75% for Republicans, we probably wouldn't be having this conversation. So basically what you're saying to the Democrats is, if you can't get these votes from these new citizens, will you still push for immigration reform? I hope you enjoyed this small excerpt. If you want to see the full video, got to be in El Dorado. Go to my website, larryelder.com, log in, fill out the form. It'll cost you about $4.75 a month, or about the price of a mocha frappuccino latte at your favorite coffee house. As you can tell, I don't like coffee. I'm a tea drinker. See you next time.